Hi guys, I hope you're doing well, and this is my first video for A2 microeconomics, and the topic that I'm going to be discussing today is marginal utility, so do watch the video till the end. If you're new to my channel and you haven't subscribed to my channel, do subscribe and share, and if you've already subscribed to my channel, then yeah, let's get started. So guys, first let's start with what marginal utility is. So first of all guys, utility means satisfaction or the happiness that you have gained from the consumption of a unit or a service, right? From the unit of a good or service, right? So basically marginal utility would mean extra utility, or you're talking about the utility that you have gained from the consumption of a particular unit, because the word marginal refers to extra, right? So marginal utility would be defined as, the utility that you have gained from consuming one unit, that is a single unit, or you can say one extra unit, right? And utility, like I said, is basically the satisfaction that you gain, the happiness that you gain, because you're consuming something. Let's suppose you're consuming chocolates. So I would say I would really want to measure the satisfaction or the happiness that you have gained, because obviously it's adding value to the amount of satisfaction that you gain from the consumption of that unit of chocolate, right? So okay, so first let's differentiate between what is marginal utility and what is total utility. Now total utility refers to the total satisfaction or the total happiness that you have gained from consuming all the units. So it's total satisfaction gained, right? It's total satisfaction gained from consuming, let's say, all the units. So it's total satisfaction gained from consuming all the units. So total utility is a total satisfaction that you have gained from consuming all the units. So let's assume that we are consuming 2 units of chocolate. 2 units of chocolate. By the way, I love chocolates. So the first unit that I consume, I gain a utility of, let's say, 10. And I'm going to be measuring utility in dollars, right? And because I'm measuring utility in terms of the monetary value, and that's kind of, you can say, that also represents my you can say willingness to pay for that unit of chocolate, because if I'm measuring utility or happiness, I need to have a unit of measurement, and we're going to be discussing this theory as well in terms of it's difficult to measure utility later on in the coming videos. But right now I'm going to be measuring utility in let's say dollars, and I say that the first chocolate that I consume, I get a utility of $10, and let's say the second unit of chocolate that I consume, I gain a utility of, let's say, $8. Now there's a reason why the utility for the second chocolate has declined then as compared to the first unit of the chocolate, and we're going to be discussing that later on in the video. But so basically $10 is the marginal utility from the first chocolate. Second chocolate, so the utility that I gain on the second chocolate is $8. That is also the marginal utility. And like I said, that marginal utility is basically the utility that is gained from consuming one unit or one extra unit of chocolate, right? So hence, if I want to calculate the total utility, that would come to 18, and this is the total utility, but I would say that this is total utility gained on consuming 2 chocolate bars, right? Okay, perfect. Now let's move on to the example that I've made. I've made a table and I've written bars of chocolate, and I've said that so I have in the first column I've written the quantity of the chocolates that I'm consuming. The second column is giving us the total utility from the consuming these chocolates, and the third column is giving us the extra utility or the marginal utility from consuming an extra bar of chocolate, right? So if I consume 0 units of chocolate, obviously I get 0 utility and 0 marginal and 0 total utility, right? But the first bar of chocolate gives me a total utility of 10, right? So if it gives me a total utility of 10, basically the marginal utility would also be 10, because this is my first bar of chocolate. But the second bar of chocolate gives me a marginal utility of 8. So the total utility from consuming 2 chocolates would be 18. Similarly, the third bar gives me a total utility of 24. And if I want to calculate the marginal utility of the third bar, that would be 24 minus 18, that is how much? That is 6. So like I said, marginal utility is the extra utility that you're gaining from the consumption of an extra unit. So if you move from the second unit to the third unit, you gain a total utility of 18 from 2 units and 24 from 3 units. So the difference would represent the marginal utility from the consumption of the third unit, right? And the consumption of the third unit gives you a marginal utility of 6. Okay, and same goes on if we move forward. The fourth chocolate gives us a marginal utility of 4, and 24 plus 4 would give us a total utility of 28. And similarly, the fifth one gives us a total utility of 30, because 28 was a total utility of consuming 4 chocolates, and of the fifth bar is giving us an extra utility of 2. So the total utility for 5 bar of chocolates would be 30. Right now, you guys need to understand that if you're calculating total utility, so when you're saying total utility, you're correspondingly relating it with the total units consumed. So if I want to calculate total utility for 5 bars, so I would say total utility for 5 bars of chocolate. But if I want to calculate the marginal utility, I wouldn't say the marginal utility for 5 bars of chocolate. Instead, I would say the marginal utility for the fifth bar of chocolate is how much? Is 2, right? Now moving forward, the marginal utility for the sixth bar of chocolate is how much? It's 0, right? And the sixth bar of chocolate also gives me a total utility of 30, and so did the fifth bar of chocolate gave me a total utility of 30. So I'm like kind of indifferent, I'm indifferent between the fifth and the sixth bar, because they both are giving me the same utility. So when I consume the sixth bar of chocolate, there is no extra utility that I gain, right? Because the marginal utility was 0, so there's no extra utility I gained from consuming the sixth bar of chocolate. Understood? Perfect. Now guys, there is one very important concept that you guys need to understand, which is basically related to the table, that you guys can see that as I am consuming more and more units, so my marginal utility is falling. My marginal utility is declining as you consume more units, right? So if I'm consuming more units, my marginal utility is declining on each additional unit that I'm consuming. So you can see that the first bar yields me a marginal utility of 10, the second yields me marginal 8, 6, 4 and 2. So it's declining, right? And we need to understand why is it declining, and this actually kind of makes more practical sense, because like I said, let's say you're craving for the first chocolate and you're dying for the first chocolate. So the first chocolate would yield you a marginal utility of, let's say, 10. So the satisfaction that you gain is 10. Now I'm not measuring at this moment right now, I'm not measuring the marginal utility in terms of dollars, or I'm not denoting any unit of measurement to it. I'm just saying the marginal utility is 10. So guys, you tell me something, the second bar of chocolate, would it yield the same satisfaction as the first bar of chocolate? Obviously no, because you've already consumed the first bar, right? So your craving is, or your desire to have that bar of chocolate is maybe, let's say, a bit of it is already satisfied or half satisfied. So for the second bar of chocolate, it wouldn't satisfy you or give you as much satisfaction or as much happiness as the first bar of chocolate, right? So the second bar of chocolate gives you a utility of only 8, and same goes on for the third bar, gives you a further less utility than the second bar. It gives you a utility of 6, because you've already had previously 2 bars before. So when you'll have the third bar, they wouldn't give you the same utility as before. They'll give you a further less utility of 6, and same goes on if you consume the fourth bar or the fifth bar. Simultaneously you see that moving forward, the marginal utility keeps on declining until it becomes 0. So when marginal utility becomes 0, it means that the fifth unit was giving you a utility of 2, but the sixth unit, you just had enough chocolates now, and the sixth bar of chocolate that you had, it gave you nothing utility. It didn't give you any kind of satisfaction. So the fifth unit is not the sixth bar of chocolate. The sixth bar of chocolate is not giving you any satisfaction or any happiness or any utility at all, because the marginal utility is 0. It means that there is no satisfaction gained from the consumption of the sixth unit, right? So you're now at a point where you're gaining no satisfaction from the consumption of the sixth unit, but still you insist on having the seventh unit, although the sixth unit is telling you, hold on man, stop. You had six units, and the sixth one did not give you any satisfaction, but you still wanted to have it, the seventh one. Okay, you said, no, I'm going to try having the seventh, although you did not want, you knew that it's not going to give you any satisfaction, because neither the sixth one did, so obviously the seventh one wouldn't as well. But the seventh one, you wanted to have the seventh one, and now when you consume the seventh unit of chocolate, there was a negative utility of, let's say, -2. Now this negative utility of -2, guys, is representing this utility, or you can say it's representing negative utility, right? Or you can say disutility. It's basically dissatisfaction. Because you've had enough chocolates, obviously you'll come up to a point where the seventh unit of the seventh bar of the chocolate would give you dissatisfaction. Now you'll start hating chocolates, right? And when this happens, your total utility declines from 30 to 28, because the sixth unit gave you a total utility of 30 when you had consumed 6 bars of chocolate. But the seventh bar, it brought your total utility down to 28, that is 30 minus 2. Because 30 was the total utility for 6 bars, and now minus 2 for the seventh bar. So the total utility after having the seventh bar is 28, right? So now it actually fell. So this is not a good decision that you made. If you want to know that whether this is a rational decision or not, then the seventh unit, guys, is not a rational decision. It's not a rational decision from the consumer's perspective. The seventh unit is the consumption of the seventh unit is representing inefficiency. It's representing that your resources are not efficiently spent, because obviously you would have spent money on the seventh bar, right? You wouldn't have just got it for free. You would have spent some money on it. So you're spending some money on the seventh bar, knowing the fact that 6 units, the sixth one did not give you any satisfaction. It just gave you a marginal utility of 0, but still you insisted on having the seventh bar, and that gave you a disutility of minus 2. It actually represents inefficiency, and in technical terms it's representing allocative inefficiency. So allocative inefficiency is representing that the amount of satisfaction that you gained, so basically the amount of happiness that you gained, happiness or the satisfaction, was actually negative, while so you didn't gain any happiness or your satisfaction. Instead, on top of that, if I compare it with the price, you actually paid a price. Didn't you pay a price? You paid a price for it, and this represents a cost on your part, right? So you have money that is going out of your pockets, and instead, comparatively, you're not getting any satisfaction. In fact, it's not about you not getting any satisfaction. You're getting dissatisfaction, because you're getting a dissatisfaction of how much? You're getting a dissatisfaction of minus 2. It's bringing your total utility down to 28 from 30. This, my friends, is known as the law of diminishing marginal utility. So the law of diminishing marginal utility tells us that marginal utility falls as we consume more, right? So as we consume more, our marginal utility keeps on falling. So with each additional unit consumed, the extra or the marginal utility diminishes, right? It diminishes, and that's a fact. It actually diminishes with the consumption of each extra unit. Yeah, so this is the first video for microeconomics. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all around in the next video. Until then, take care.